So many of us Helix, HX Stomp, HX Stomp XL, Helix LT, Helix Rack users own copies of the amazing Helix Native software, and some folks wonder whether they need it or not, whether it will be useful. It's basically a software version of a full-blown Helix. I know personally for my uses, I use it all the time. Sometimes my Helix may be at a rehearsal space for an upcoming show or a band practice, and I don't have it at home and I need to do something Helix related. I can just pull up Helix Native within my DAW and work with my audio interface straight into that. Sometimes I need to create presets for custom tone and marketplace and for others. I find it invaluable. I also find it invaluable for reamping. But what is my absolute number one favorite feature? You might wonder, because you say, well, if you already have a Helix and HX Stomp, Helix Native is not really going to do anything new for you, maybe give you that ability to easily reamp a DI'd guitar track. But let's take a look at it. I'm going to show you a feature that I know a lot of you are probably aware of, but I think a lot of you don't realize might be there, and it could be an extremely useful feature for you when using Helix Native. All right, so here we are over at Helix Native software within my Cubase 12 DAW. And here's my little preset from the Line 6 Marketplace, Tweed Blues Ultimate. Love this preset, nice little Fender tone going on. Now, I'm not going to deal with any of the sort of usual suspect features you might think I would. I'm actually going to come down here into the bottom left-hand corner and hit our little gear icon that takes us to our settings. And you'll notice that over here we have View, Tab, Presets, IRs, but here's the one I'm interested in, is hardware compatibility. Let's click on that. It says current hardware compatibility mode, Helix Floor, LT, and Rack. Now, if we pull that menu down, we notice we have some other choices. Off, HX Effects, HX Stomp, HX Stomp XL. Now, you might wonder what this is doing. If I'm a hardware owner of any of these listed products, I would want to ensure that my preset was going to be compatible and load up properly on whatever hardware I had. For instance, if I only had an HX Stomp and not a full-blown Helix, it's not going to do me much good if I want to create a preset that's going to be compatible with my HX Stomp if I create a Helix preset that isn't going to necessarily load properly. So I can come in here and set this to HX Stomp compatibility mode, and it's going to allow me to create a preset that is going to be 100% compatible within the confines of the amount of CPU we have, the number of snapshots, and any other possible confines that we're limited to with having something like HX Stomp. We can also do the same thing for HX Effects and HX Stomp XL. So what actually happens when we try to switch this? By default, I have mine set to Helix Floor, and as we can see up here, the preset looks very much like what we would see on HX Edit for our Helix. But let's come over here and let's switch it to HX Stomp. When I click that, we get a message. It says, selecting HX Stomp will alter Helix Native signal flow model list and presets to allow preset compatibility with HX Stomp hardware. Proceed with caution. So if I click that, and it says translation of current preset failed, proceed with change and discard the current preset. I'm going to say yes. So it's going to alter this preset. It's going to kind of destroy it. I'm okay. I have this backed up elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And you'll notice that this preset now turns into HX Stomp compatible mode. So if I close this out, I see now that I have 8 blocks that are possible. I'm going to only have the CPU limits of what the HX Stomp could handle and any blocks that will work with HX Stomp. You'll also notice up here that I only now have 3 snapshots. So let's come back to our little settings here and let's go to HX Stomp XL. We get the same caution messages. That's fine. But now you'll notice we still have those 8 blocks, but we now have 4 snapshots. So any preset I make with this will now be compatible with HX Stomp XL, which is very, very handy. I can also use this for HX Effects, and it's going to give me those same limitations, 4 snapshots and the number of blocks that I would have for that, and that's now going to be compatible. What's interesting about that is you'll notice there's no more amp blocks. There are just effects blocks, okay? So that's what the HX Effects is going to be all about, as is laid out in its name. There's a really interesting mode, though, which we have off. Now, it gives us another caution message. As tuning hardware compatibility off allows for more simultaneous blocks per instance, but the presets you make in this mode may not be compatible with your Helix or HX hardware. Proceed with caution. Again, I get all of my normal blocks up here, but now something like poly pitch, which is going to be a real resource hog. And actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go back to Helix compatibility for just a moment here, and we'll check out what happens with the poly pitch effect. You notice I add one instance, and on this particular path, I can't add another one. I've tapped out the CPU of the Helix when set to Helix compatibility mode. I can still add other different blocks, of course, that aren't as CPU intensive. But if I come back down to our hardware compatibility, turn this off, we'll heed our warning. Now you'll take a look here, and I can add another poly pitch. And let's see if I can just keep pasting these. And you'll notice that as I go along, I can fill up my entire path with poly pitch effects, and I can keep going even on the other path and notice how many I can get. So for anybody using this for, let's say, sound design, or, you know, that doesn't really care about hardware compatibility, if you have a powerful computer, the sky is kind of going to be the limit here. We can really go crazy with this. We could have numerous amps. We could have pretty much anything we could dream of, depending on how powerful our computer is. So I haven't really run into the time when I've needed that. I'm using my Helix mostly for purposes that are going to stay within the realm of what the original Helix is going to be able to handle for CPU. So I haven't really gone that route before. But I'll tell you, for myself, when I'm creating, let's say, Line 6 Marketplace presets, and I want to work within Helix Native, this has been an absolute dream to be able to set this to stomp mode and know that I can now just work around with these 3 snapshots, know that whatever I add in here, it's going to be compatible with my HX Stomp. So this feature has been a real lifesaver for me and really helped to improve my workflow. And I just wanted to point this out to anybody who has Helix Native, that they can do this, because I know a lot of times when things are hidden down in these sort of deep settings, we may miss them and not know that there's a really cool feature that can really help improve our workflow. You'll also notice that there are some other great settings within here. It says when loading presets that don't match current hardware mode, it's going to prompt you or change mode to match the file, translate the file to the current mode. Really handy that we have the ability to be able to choose that for the situation that's going to work for us best. Remove non-functioning hardware blocks such as loopers when importing presets. I have that disabled, but you can enable that. Show hardware bypass controller assignments. You can either hide or show those assignments. And auto-assign hardware bypass controllers to pedal-based models. So you can either disable or enable that. So very nice that the folks at Line 6 have given us this ability to customize this in a way that's really going to work with our workflow and help us to get whatever we're trying to accomplish done in a much more efficient manner. All right, what did you guys think? I know a lot of you probably knew that was there, but like I mentioned already, sometimes there's some hidden kind of global settings that we don't realize are there. And when we finally do, we go, oh my goodness, this could have saved me so much time and effort. And instead of having to maybe hook up your Stomp or your Stomp XL or your HX effects, instead of having your floor hooked up, or maybe we're just working on a laptop where we don't have any of the hardware around, we just have a little audio interface. It gives us a way to be able to create presets for our hardware or for other people's hardware, or if we're sharing presets. It gives us a way to work like that with a very nice, quick workflow and guaranteed compatibility. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know a little bit of a different video, but I really do hope it was helpful to some. Please like the video, share it with anybody who you think would get some use out of watching it or enjoy watching it. And also please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.